Welcome into the gym today, everybody. I want to go ahead today and break down and take a deeper dive into the shoulder distraction series. I want to take you through, number one, the setup that I like to use, and number two, why I think it's a little bit more effective way of not just mobilizing your shoulder girdle, but also going ahead and protecting your rotator cuff, mobilizing your mid-thoracic spine, and going ahead and even getting your hips involved with the mobility series. So let's go ahead and let's break it down with setups first, and then we'll take you more through how I like to flow through the shoulder distraction series.
I'm going to use two setups for my shoulder distraction. I'm either going to go ahead and loop a band over top of a stable structure, or like in my band gym at home, I'll just loop it through the carabiner clip. Now this is going to create a shorter band system, but it's also going to allow you to have less need for surface area. So as you go ahead and stretch the band out, you don't need to stretch out as far or move as far away from your attachment point. Also, I like this specifically with the super micro band because it's a wider band and I have more surface area on my hand, so it makes for a much more effective grip on the band, so I don't have to go ahead and really grip it hard. I can just let it rest on my wrist as I go through the movements. The other way I'll set it up is I'll take a full length quantum band. Typically I like to use my purple large band. Once again, I like the width of it because it's going to be comfortable on my hand. But for this setup, there's going to be more variability in the system. So as a result of that, I'm going to be able to move around a little bit more effectively, but I'm going to need more surface area. So go ahead and choose which setup you like to use and feel free to test them out and see which one works best for you. So what's the difference between the shoulder distraction series and your standard traditional shoulder stretching? Standard traditional shoulder stretching very often has you moving your arm on a stationary body. What that's going to result in is the forces that come from the movement are going to have to go through my rotator cuff to get to the muscles that I truly want to stretch, which are my anterior chest and posterior shoulder muscles and lat muscles. By going ahead and doing the shoulder distraction, I'm going to place my hand through the band, I'm going to leave my arm be stationary, and I'm going to move my body around a stationary arm. Now as a result of that, I'm going to go ahead and be driving the forces from the floor, through my feet, through my hips, through my torso, and into my posterior shoulder or anterior shoulder without having to go ahead and go through my rotator cuff. So that's one of the first keys to this distraction series. The second one is the distraction. The shoulder loves distraction. It works very well. When I was in physical therapy, people had frozen shoulder syndrome or adhesive capsulitis. One of the things we found was as soon as we started applying distraction to the shoulder, it loved it. Rotator cuff problems, most shoulder injuries ultimately are going to enjoy having the band distract their shoulder. The key will be where you start the attachment point. You may have to go ahead and start at a lower point and distract down there at first, because when you get up here, it starts to impinge or pinch onto your rotator cuff. Feel free to go ahead and start your distraction series at a lower point. Don't feel like you have to immediately go high with your distraction. So that's the two reasons I think the shoulder distraction series is going to be much more effective at mobilizing your upper torso, shoulder, mid-thoracic spine than the traditional arm on body movement. Now there are a lot of ways that you can go ahead and flow through this shoulder distraction series. What I will recommend is find your greatest restrictions and find those areas that are less restricted. Start in the less restricted areas for a few moments while you flow through the movements, and then gradually work into your more restricted area. For me, my posterior shoulder is more restricted than my anterior shoulder, and overhead is a little bit more restricted as well. So I like to hit more on those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the shoulder setup here so you can see a little bit more effectively. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my hand through and I'm going to drop down onto one knee. Now dropping down onto one knee allows me to use a not as high of an attachment point. Now I'm going to start by just allowing my body to relax and let the band start distracting. And then I'm going to start moving my body on my arm in different positions. Feel free to move your feet around and allow yourself to move freely as you go through any of the movements. The entire time, I am moving my body on a stationary arm. Typically, I'll start with this overhead distraction series. Once again, use the level of band stretch and tension that you can tolerate. From there, I will typically go into more of an anterior shoulder stretch where all I'm doing is migrating or oscillating slowly back and forth as I let the force go through my hips, which ultimately allows the band to distract my shoulder. By moving my feet into different positions, I can go ahead and influence the stretch on my anterior shoulder. I will typically go ahead and work that for a minute, then I'll turn around and I'll start working my posterior shoulder. Same thing. Notice how I just rock back and forth on my feet as I allow the band to distract my shoulder and ultimately start stretching through my posterior shoulder. I will drop down and allow my body to go ahead and be distracted in different positions. I might go ahead and reposition my feet so that now the arm is being driven and I'm getting a little bit more of a stretch through my trap and upper shoulder versus more the posterior or lower. I can also go ahead and drop down onto one knee and allow myself to just lower down and stretch. It's really limitless in regards to all the different positions you can go ahead and take yourself through while doing the distraction series. The keys are this: find a band tension that you can relax with. Attach your band at the height that works best for you. You should not experience any kind of shoulder pain, any kind of pinching into the upper part of your shoulder while you're doing this series. If you are, you have your band attached too high, bring it down into a lower attached position. And then as you start to let the band distract your shoulder, relax. Work on your breathing. Find positions that you can go ahead and start with slowly and allow your body to relax. And then slowly just move your body around your arm as you go ahead and distract out the shoulder. I typically will work for about 5 minutes, 2.5 minutes on each shoulder. But if I feel like I need more, I'll very easily go ahead and move and lengthen them out for a longer period of time. Shoulder distraction series, I think, is something well worth trying. The key will be, as I said, make sure your band tension is correct, make sure your attachment point is at the height that works best for you.